The factory floor was still warm from the swing shift when I was called to the foreman's metal cubicle, the taste of black coffee bitter at the back of my tongue. I'd worked 12 hours. The light in that cramped box was grey, harsh fluorescence buzzing. It was April, dawn leaking through slit windows, and every nerve in my arms quivered from lifting heavy crates for the whole night. He didn't bother to look at me when he slid the envelope across the scarred desk. "Silva, company downsized," he said, his voice hard as rusted gears. "You're not needed. You got 5 minutes." I stared at the envelope, the pale blue edge, my name ugly in biro. My mouth was full of cotton. I stood there too long, men with sleep-heavy faces in all-stained jumpsuits avoiding my eyes as they filed out. A few weeks shy of my 24th birthday, summarily dismissed like an old, broken wrench, panic welled up wild as the traffic 30 floors below. Rent was due. Ma would be up soon, making sweet coffee and humming to herself, certain her oldest son would bring home bread. I stuffed the envelope into my pocket and kept my back straight as I left, stomach shrunken down to a cold knot. The walk home took me along the edge of Copacabana, the sand still shadowed, beach sweepers pausing to smoke behind seawalls. But it wasn't fear for money, not really, that stuck in my throat. It was the memory of every time my father, after a hard shift with fists cut open by glass bottles, shook his head at me and muttered, "Dreams won't feed you, Victor. Who you think you are, scientist? Nah. Factory pays real." That morning, dread met defiance, and something inside me went sharp and stubborn. I showered, cold water gasp, then sat at the edge of the bed Ma and I shared, shuffling university pamphlets with trembling hands, documents my whole family thought were the fantasy of the useless. The ink was faded, chemical engineering, computer science, biotech, what the hell did I even know? Ma found me there hunched, staring at the wrinkled pages. "They let you go?" she asked, soft but tired. The news spread before I said a word. Our favela was as tight as a rusted bolt. I nodded, barely glancing at her. She sat beside me, took my hand in hers, her skin cracked from endless scrubbing. "You smart, Philho. But a man must work you here. You must try for another job." Her gentleness nearly made me cave, but I shook her off and stood. "I want more, Ma. I don't belong there. I want to study." She sighed so heavy it made my shoulders ache. Word spread. By lunchtime, my uncle Juka, who ran the bakery downstairs, ribbed me in front of his customers. "Hey, professor, come need some dough. Canvas and chemicals, Pa, go wash some dishes." My cousins joined in, their laughter sharp. At dinner, my brother Paulo put on glasses and mimed mixing test tubes, spraying flour everywhere. They called me Doutorzinho, little doctor, for months. My father, working extra at night, just stayed silent, shaking his head and turning the TV up loud, but I was done waiting for someone to tell me I could. I spent the last of my severance on bus fare to the university. I queued to beg the registrar for another shot. I spent sleepless weeks combing YouTube for chemistry lectures and open-source programming tutorials, the glow from the cheap phone screen making my eyes sting each morning. I took every odd job I could, fetching water in construction sites, cleaning the Creole apartments of Ipanema, mopping floors at pop-up clubs. I slept 4 hours, spent the rest reading, learning, pushing as if my skull was a locked door I could break through with pure will. Most days I saw pity or amusement in the faces around me, the market vendors waving away my applications, my tia Yolanda who told Ma within earshot, "He's never happy with what he gets, thinks he's special. Like the world owes him a white coat." It hurt more than I let on. Loneliness became the sour background note to every day. Plenty of times, head buzzing with formulas I barely understood, I thought about giving up. Maybe they were right. Maybe it was ridiculous. But I saw a future so close to my reach, it was like a fever. The glass walls of a laboratory, charts and code on a glowing screen, my own name on a research paper. The university finally accepted me after I aced an open exam. Aid was so thin I could barely stay in class. I ate cheap powder queijo, roomed with 5 other misfits in a tiny rental crawling with cockroaches on the edge of Botafogo. I filled the cracks in my days with old computers that barely ran and library books so old the pages stuck to my skin with sweat. Life there wasn't romantic, it was survival, pure and unadorned. Sometimes, on the long walk back over the cracked hills, I'd see tourists staring at the city from hotel balconies, as if Rio was just a painting. I wanted to tell them about the dirt under my nails, the faded bruises on my arms, the rawness of hunger between lectures, but I learned to keep it inside. It took years, and each exam, each late-night code session, each failed experiment was a boulder in my gut. I was never the best, but I was always still standing. My second year, I fell in with Professor Mendes, a soft-spoken computational biologist who saw something in my scratchy code and late-night persistence. He let me crash his lab, sleep on benches, learn CRISPR and neural net modeling by watching PhD students who couldn't tell if my questions were dumb or brilliant. When he left for a fellowship in Boston, he dragged me with him, calling in a final favor. The plane ticket, my first, had my name spelled wrong. I cried at the airport, wiped the tears, and made up a story about hay fever for the stranger beside me. America was cold, vast, and empty of everyone I knew. My accent made me feel stupid. I lived in rented rooms and survived on instant noodles. I sent Ma what I could, half out of guilt for being gone. Boston rewarded only hustle, but Mendy's faith and the hard lessons of Rio were a fierce armor. By my 5th year in graduate school, I was lead on a project merging AI pattern analysis and gene therapy, a marriage of code and biology, the thing I'd once practiced late at night with shaky hands and cheap textbooks. I sent home little news. On holidays when I returned, I'd always walk the beach, carrying nothing that proved where I'd been. My family, if anything, was less interested. My little brother was in and out of trouble, the street gangs swallowing him up. My father had gotten older, smaller, his hands shook now, and the TV was always on, loud enough to drown conversation. Worse, they treated my visits as an embarrassment, proof Victor thought he was too good now, buying time with gringo patronage. If somebody asked, Ma just said, he's working far too busy, someplace in America. Inside, I understood. Distance breeds suspicion. I told myself one day I'd be more than a shadow in their stories. It took nearly a decade from the day I was fired for my first truly big breakthrough. Our group, a scrappy collection of tired, fierce-hearted postdocs, cracked a method of accelerating protein folding predictions using a neural architecture trained on Rio viruses. The project, computationally impossible 2 years before, was suddenly feasible thanks to some code hacks I'd worked in the cheap dorms of Rio. We filed a patent. The company launched, riding a wave of hope for new vaccines as the world reeled from pandemic after pandemic. For the first time, my name, Victor de Silva was at the top of a headline in Nature. Still, I hid behind Mendes, let the CEO's smooth talk handled only the code. Some of me craved home, but I wasn't ready to go back, not until I'd made good. Years passed. Success, I learned, was as lonely as failure. Nights blurred into mornings, journalists called, investors shouted, engineers wanted code notes. My emails filled with requests, strangers called me genius, sometimes fraud. The old hunger drove me until my body broke down, and I woke in a hospital room with wires in my arm and Mendes shaking his head. I thought about Ma then. I had missed her birthday, missed my brother's funeral after his luck ran out in a dark alley. I missed my family, even if we'd never understood each other. So I came home, not for them, but for myself. I needed the sand under my feet, the air thick with salt, the silence of early morning before all the mocking voices rose up. I came back with nothing flashy, no suits, no announcements. Just a battered backpack, my code repositories on a battered laptop, and a letter from the university inviting me to speak. The old building was unchanged, graffiti and seagull droppings, sea wind gnawing the stone. But the hall was packed with students, reporters, professors, even a few government officials, waiting for Dr. Victor de Silva, pioneer in AI-assisted vaccine design, to take the stage. My cousins snickered in the back row, along with 2 neighbors who used to throw soda cans at my windows. Paulo sat beside them, his eyes shuttered, expression wary. Ma arrived late, her best dress softened with age, holding my hand with a grip that betrayed her nerves. My father did not come. As I walked to the front, the lights were blinding, sweat trickled down my ribs. My voice sounded wrong at first, but I forced myself to speak, slow, in Portuguese, letting the audience swirl around the rhythm of my words. We used to dismiss ourselves, I told them, hands trembling, because others did. When I started, I didn't have money, connections, or even much faith, just need. I belong here today because I never let that need die, no matter who laughed. I looked straight at my Uncle Duca, watched the grin fade from his face, my cousins silent for the first time. The lecture went well. But the proof was yet to come. Afterward, Professor Machado, Dean of Research, called me to the front for a small ceremony. The reporters surged, old classmates snapped photos. Then Machado handed me a marble plaque, its gold letter gleaming, to Victor de Silva, alumnus of the decade, for extraordinary contributions to global health. I gripped it, heavy as hope. The TV lights pooled over my face and I lifted it high, unsteady, uncertain, proud. Victor, the Ministry of Education is partnering with your company, Machado announced. Hundreds of jobs will open. Your work, what you built with these hands, will power Brazil's new vaccine labs. Your software will be taught here in this very city for generations. There was an odd hush, a beat too long. I thought about the old jeers, *doutorzinho, professor, dreamer, how it burned my ears for all those years. I looked around but didn't see the sneers, only awe, disbelief. My uncle's jaw slackened. Beside him, Paulo sank forward, hands over his mouth. Caramba, he muttered, the word trembling in the air. Ma wiped her tears openly. Somebody in the front clapped and then, all at once, they all did, cautious at first, then thundering. The very voices that once sang my mockery, now drowning out everything else. Afterwards, as the crowd dispersed, my family hovered at a distance, uncertain, shy. I walked straight to them. Paulo met my gaze, then, awkward, half ashamed, hugged me so hard it cracked my ribs. We were wrong, he said, voice hoarse. Even Duca laughed, slapping my back. So you really are a doctor, eh? They formed a knot around me, uncertain but warming. For the first time, I felt like I belonged both here and in the world I'd built. That night, the city gleamed with lights and distant music. We walked home together, the sea breeze soft. Ma held onto my arm as she did when I was a child. For the first time in years, I saw pride on her weary face. I listened to their stories, their laughter, remembering the sting of old wounds, the hard-won peace. I knew I would leave again. My work was elsewhere, my fight not entirely home. But now, when I left, I knew the door would always be open, neither exile nor stranger, but returning son. I had carried Rio with me all along, even when everyone thought I was a fool. Now, standing in this circle of family, I realized redemption wasn't proving them wrong. It was returning, changed, and allowing myself to be known. I slept that night with the window open, the call of gulls carrying on the warm breeze, no longer afraid to dream.